The move that had to be made, the move that might be a couple weeks too late. Dan Quinn makes a major move on the defensive side of the football. Let's have a podcast. What up, everybody? It's Beltway Football. I'm JP Finlay. He's Mitch Tischler, brought to you by MGM National Harbor. We're just going to knock out all the sponsors. MGM National Harbor, Total Wine. They got a new store in Chevy Chase with parking and alcohol. Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. Love those guys. Got to hang with Biaggi yesterday. Tap Sports Bar, all of it.
The Joe Whitt.
Dan Quinn's going to be D coordinator. Joe Whitt's still on the staff. He's going back up to the booth. The phrase you've been saying most, I will allow you to say it because I wonder if that's what you think it is.
I've been saying a lot of the Joe Whitt moves have been rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. To me, this isn't that. I don't expect that this is going to be a fundamental change in the way this season goes, the trajectory of it. But clearly things have gone off the rails on the defensive side of the ball. The last 4 weeks have been as bad of a defensive showing as we've seen in our time covering this team. And to me, you got to start trying to figure out where things went wrong. And to me, this is the first step when you start tracing a problem. Change what happens at the top, change the communication, change the messaging, change the play calling, and see if that starts trickling down. And if it's still a problem, then you start working on the next step and the next step and the next step until you can figure out where the heck this thing went off the rails. And I don't expect that this team's going to turn around and win whatever it is, 7 straight and make the playoffs, or 6 straight and make the playoffs, or whatever. But at the same time, I do think it's a fundamental change, and it's really the first fundamental change we've seen this coaching staff make since DQ's been here.
Yeah, I mean, it is a significant change. You're also not firing him, so it doesn't feel the same, but Quinn calling the plays. I think they felt backed into a corner. Something had to give. I mean, these are historically bad performances. I mean, to lose by 3 touchdowns in 4 straight games, to give up 550 yesterday to Detroit. They had to do something, and whether they felt the pressure or ownership felt the pressure or they just recognized this is a disaster. You seem more bullish on the impact this move can make than I would say I am. The injuries have been so significant. Now you got Trey Amos out for the year. That's another one to add to the list. Deron Payne suspended. Maybe he'll win his appeal. I don't really see how he wins his appeal with that clean of a punch in the middle of the field. Miami's got speed all over the field. It's crazy to think how much this thing has flipped upside down in a year. Like, it's just crazy. But that's life in pro football, right?
Real quick, I am not bullish that this is going to make an iota of a difference, but there's a big difference between giving up 44 points and 550 yards and giving up 350 yards and 28 points in a game. And this is more about, I want to see if Dan Quinn can get players in the right position. Guys aren't even in the right position right now. Forget the technique issues and the flaws with I don't want, maybe effort or whatever the word is you want to use for it. I want to see if they can get this team, these players lined up correctly, get them in the correct gaps, get them attacking plays in the correct manner. You're seeing it all over the field where you saw Jahmyr Gibbs running through holes that were 10 yards wide. I mean, you and I could have gained 15 yards on some of those runs. What I'm saying is I don't think that DQ taking over play calling is going to make this team automatically a good defense, but this defense shouldn't be the worst defense in the league, even with all the injuries that they've had. And even if they do end up still ranking near the bottom at the end of the year, I think there's a big delta between being what they were the last 4 weeks and just being a regular bad defense. And I think that's where we got to the point where a move had to be made with Joe Whitt, because this wasn't just a regular bad defense. If they did this for the next 7 weeks, this would be a historically bad defense, arguably one of the worst defenses the NFL has ever seen if these numbers continue. And quite frankly, with a guy with the defensive acumen that Dan Quinn has and the track record he has on defense, I can't accept that the injuries are going to be the reason that this thing continues to go that way. So I like the move to make a fundamental change. And they didn't fire Joe Whitt, just like the Cardinals didn't bench Kyler Murray. I mean, Joe Whitt's, for all intents and purposes, not particularly involved in this defense anymore. Sure, he'll have his say, he'll be in the rooms, and I'm sure he'll be in DQ's ear. But at the end of the day, he's not going to be on the headset on game days, and he's not going to be the voice that's communicating how he wants these defenses played by this team. So with Dan Quinn taking over, if it's a even if it's just a small change, and we start seeing folks filling the right gaps and taking on blocks in the correct manner, and Jameer and the next running back, Devin Achan going for 100 yards instead of 200 yards, or 80 yards instead of a buck 20. Those are step by step increments. Doesn't make a hill of beans for this season. Doesn't change anything for where this thing is going, which I think everyone can see. But it gives you at least something to build on as you start trying to figure out how the heck can you get this defense with this set of players to a point where when games do matter, i.e., next season, they're in a reasonable spot to move forward.
I hear you. Logical. I just don't know that I agree. I just don't know that it makes any difference, honestly, but we'll find out. I mean, that's why they play the games. Um, it's just they had to do something. I wonder if you do it like if it is going to get guys in the right position, you should have done it 2 weeks ago. Like it's just I don't know. Frankly, last year it's not like they were great and in great positions. They just forced some turnovers. They got some puck luck, and this year they've gotten none of it. Just running through the rest of the news from the presser with DQ. I guess we'll find out if Deron Payne's suspension gets upheld. What we do know is Amos likely out for the year. I mean, he's got a broken fibula, and it's mid-November. I don't see him playing again. This has got to be a blow to the NFL just for their marketing purposes. Jaden Daniels not even making the trip to Spain. Terry McLaurin is making the trip, but will not play. I almost wonder if the league's like, yo, we need somebody that could go to some dinners and shake some hands and kiss some babies. And maybe the team needs Terry to do that. Somebody with star power, because if Jaden's not going to go, I, I don't know. I don't. I don't know.
This is
Jaden's not going. Terry is going. Amos out for the year. We're finding out about Payne. DQ said he talked with him. They visited. Um,
the Payne suspension, not a surprise. For those we're taping this at 3:52 in the next half hour to hour, we'll probably find out whether anything has changed. I don't expect anything to change. The Commanders can say whatever happened with Jahmyr Gibbs all they want. I haven't seen any video, and I've seen folks talk about the All 22 doesn't show it, the game broadcast doesn't show it. Even if somebody does show it, the NFL can have a player wind up and take a full on haymaker or
and a star receiver too.
right. It's just Payne's not going to be. I don't think it's going to change because he's suspended. He can't travel. If the suspension is upheld, he will not travel. I think this is a full on pin because I don't think either of us have an answer. But going back to earlier in the season, you and I, JP, have talked about this. I think there's a discussion to be had about the travel, non-travel situation with these injured players. It seems much like the rest of this season with Dan Quinn and this coaching staff, inconsistent. And I think that there are answers to be had about why some guys traveled some weeks, some guys didn't travel other weeks. Jaden was in KC but didn't travel the last time he was hurt. Terry wasn't in KC, now he's going to Spain. Sam Cosmi didn't try. I mean, I just think it's, Dan Quinn preaches consistency and wanting, things done a certain way. And this might be the most minimal of things because it doesn't affect the on-field play, but it is to me, a weird inconsistency from this team, from this coaching staff. I'm surprised that Jaden's not traveling. You talked about, shaking hands and kissing babies. I would have thought, he's shaking hands with
He
his
kind of hates that stuff,
he does.
honestly. Like he doesn't, especially not playing. I don't think Jaden wants to have to go meet the prime minister or whatever might be going on. Um,
Jaden was on the field on Sunday against Detroit. It's it's odd. I'll leave it there. It's odd. To
um,
me, it's odd.
yeah, it also, I don't think it matters much. You know what I mean? It's something in the moment that I hear you though. It is inconsistent and it is perhaps odd. Um, the whole year is inconsistent and odd.
Yeah,
It's just the best they played was the second half against the Chargers, and that was the first weekend of October, I think.
yeah.
Right.
And I think as much as
They've
It's
lost every game since then.
yeah, yes, they got the 3-2 against the Chargers, and then things have gone down.
Lost to the Bears. Yeah.
And as much as I think folks wanted the red meat of some sort of change, and whether this is enough of a stake for folks is a conversation maybe for later. But the head coaching decisions have also been inconsistent. We talked about in the post game pod on Sunday afterwards the timeout situation, taking the delay of game after the on an extra point. Like you're putting now more on Dan Quinn's plate instead of less, and it wasn't mastered. Everything wasn't mastered, hasn't been mastered this season. Everything went right last year. All the decisions were the right decisions at the right time. This year, not quite as much. And now you're putting also on his plate, you know, having to call the defense and be ultra involved in things. And we've seen Dan Quinn be a head coach when he was in Atlanta, take over the Falcons defense when things started to go bad. I wonder if, is it Brian Johnson's the assistant head coach? If maybe a little bit more game day duties are put on his plate to help alleviate everything that Dan Quinn's going to have to work with now with the defense. I think that, as we get to Spain and have more time to process this move and discuss with, folks that matter how this is going to materially change the way that this coaching staff works, I think there are questions that still will need to be answered, but it's at least a fundamental change that this team needed. And is it a day late and a dollar short? Yes, but better late than never.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's not a ton to add. I mean, maybe we see something and then we have a better feeling about it. Um,
DQ's presser today was relatively quick, and I get it. They have to hop on a plane, and there's a lot to do in a short period of time. Hopefully on Wednesday, when we get a chance to talk to him in Madrid, we'll be able to have a little more time to ask some deeper questions or some more questions, and hopefully get some more answers. But like I said, at least it's something.
at least it's something. The 2025 Washington season.
Yeah.
All right. We got a lot to do. We're gonna have a party Friday night. Have we? Where are we on a graphic?
We're locked in. O'Reilly's 9 p.m. Uh,
O'Reilly's.
O'Reilly's downtown Madrid.
I've
Uh,
been telling people O'Brien's. That's a good.
O'Brien's makes
I'm
pit barbecue beef sandwich around here in these parts, but O'Reilly's is an Irish pub in downtown Madrid. We'll start there. It'll be a nice setting where JP and I can buy a couple beers for some folks. We can all commiserate together, and we'll get over to Spain for practice on Wednesday. All things going the right way, knock on wood, and we'll have a lot more on what this change means and where this team goes from here.
all right. This looks fun. O'Reilly's Irish Pub. Okay,
Yeah,
because I'm excited. We'll see you there 9 o'clock Friday night. I don't have an address, but we're gonna get a graphic that I will post on social. Also, I'm getting a lot of people asking me a lot of questions. I don't know really anything about this setup, but what I do know, what's dope about Europe is if somehow we pack this place and you can't get inside, you can just stand in the street and drink a beer.
yeah.
So we'll figure it out. Well,
There's a great pub next door as well. So there's plenty of places to grab a cerveza or a caña, which I've now been told is a tap beer. I always thought that was sugar, but that's a different
shout
story.
out to Kanya.
Yeah.
I'll have a Kanya.
We'll have a couple of those and discuss all things Burgundy and Gold.
Sucks. This was supposed to be such a fun celebration of football, and now it's like just limping into the finish line. But whatever, we're going to Spain, and it's time to turn that frown upside down.
Yes.
All right. You made it this far. I owe you a Kanya.